Right, so Gary,
Yeah, how you going?
finally retiring.
Yeah, it's finally happening. Decision's been a fairly long time coming. I just had to feel that I was ready, and when I turned 70 last year, it sort of signalled that the time was right for me to hand over the control of the business and spend a bit more time at home.
Yeah, well, I guess one of the key challenges to an advisor who's helped well hundreds of people go through that retirement stage of life. You wouldn't be a great advisor if you couldn't eventually take your own advice, I suppose. So, be interested in getting your views on not just the making of that decision, but how have you found setting up and getting ready for that transition into retirement from a client perspective.
Yeah, it's been interesting. All the things that go through your mind about, am I ready? Is the time right? What am I going to do when I retire? Which I think is the biggest issue around is when speaking with this about the client with the clients about this is to have something in mind that you is going to occupy your time. I think one of the biggest issues for a lot of people is that they get bored very quickly in retirement if they don't have a plan to do something. And we plan on doing as much travel as we can inside Australia. I'm always been involved in some sort of community work, so I'm pretty sure that we'll be doing that as well. So I don't envisage that I'll have any shortage of things to do, and I'll have my time pretty well fulfilled.
So, you mentioned obviously spent a fair bit of time sort of, coming to the decision and particularly the timing of it. What do you see as the key pros and cons of this transition from a client's point of view?
Um, if I was in speaking to my clients about it, it's exactly that. Are you feeling that you're ready? What's prompted the decision? There's lots of different reasons why people will do it. If you spoke to my wife a couple of years ago, she would have had me out of the business, but I just didn't feel that I was ready. And I don't know, and I can't put my finger on exactly when that was, but I just felt at one stage that yes, I think the time is right now for me to wind back and prepare the business to be sold on to you guys.
And just sort of on that transition, then obviously, that I know that that's been a huge consideration for you because you've been not just sort of in relationships with these clients, it's some for going back decades, but I know that you take a huge amount of personal responsibility in the weight that you carry sort of with them. So, what are your thoughts around the approach to that, and how do you feel about finally sort of making that transition?
I've said this to the clients, as you know, Matt. I have a great deal of comfort to know, on behalf of the clients, that you guys are taking over the business and buying the business because we have been working collaboratively together for the last 10 years or more. And from a client's perspective, I see it as being a very smooth transition for them in the sense that almost nothing changes for most of them except that it won't be my handsome face on the other side of the desk. Other than that, all the processes and systems are the same, all the staff's the same, and as I said to the clients, I've got every single confidence in and comfort in the fact that you guys are buying the business from me, and the clients are going to be well looked after.
Yeah, so I mean that's a relatively unusual situation. As you know, we've certainly taken on many clients over the years, and you've certainly taken on clients from other advisors. The fact that this is in many respects been more like a 10-year transition, I suppose, and that there's been a lot of stability. As you say, particularly in the back office and the staff that your clients are used to dealing with, which is, if we're honest, is always more than certainly the bulk of their interaction tends to be with people who are doing the work as opposed to talking about the decisions. It's the same for all the advisors. How have you found that now with a little bit of hindsight, so looking back on that, the decision you made, a decade or so ago to sort of join up with us and in that sort of collaboration, how has that experience been, and what are the key lessons you've got from that?
Um, Look, it's been a very good experience from day one. I um, was able to adapt all of the processes and systems that you guys developed, and I was happy to do that because they fitted in with the way that I wanted to work as well. I know that the clients have developed good connections with the two staff members that they mainly deal with is Erin and Marcus, where Marcus is providing that sort of service, and they're really comfortable with the whole process. And I mean, Erin's developed some good relationships with the clients along the way as well because she does speak to them a lot. And as you know, I'm not in the office every day, and the clients ring and they'll often speak to Erin or Marcus before they even talk to me. In fact, a lot of the times the client's issues are resolved without even talking to me because of the quality of the support staff that the business has. So, as you say, it's been like a 10-year transition, and the whole business has developed. You know, with Marcus coming on board and Rachel coming on board as well. So yeah, so I've been very, very comfortable with the whole process, and and as you've said to many of the clients in our meetings that we've got very similar investment philosophies, and that's a really important thing for me handing the business over is that the clients are not going to experience any dramatic change in what's been happening with them already, and of course there'll be changes in the future, but there's always been changes in the past, but they haven't been dramatic enough to cause the clients any concern. So once again, I'm very comfortable with the whole process and the whole transition.
Yeah, certainly it's one of the things that we found, in working with you, over such a long period of time is that it's often, people talk about having a philosophy or having, a way of going about things, but the only real way to test that is to see how those behaviours, um, change or morph over time based on different sort of circumstances. I always found it quite interesting talking to people in the industry, particularly say through the period of the GFC, and it amazed me how many people were almost sort of so it sort of undermined their beliefs in so many ways, which I found relatively odd. It was a relatively unique situation. There was some unique things to deal with in that period, but for all intents and purposes, it was another one of a very similar thing that happened in the past, and the fundamentals hadn't really changed. And seeing people's reaction to those sorts of events, really highlighted to me that not everyone who says they have the same sort of philosophy or tries to articulate things in the same way does. But having seen your approach to things, and maybe this is part of your previous background as much as anything else, which I'd like to talk to you about as well a little bit. But your relaxed approach and you know your ability to be convinced that things need to change, but only if they really need to change, is I think is that's what you see as a hallmark of good, consistent sort of long term advice.
Oh, 100%, Matt. And I think it was interesting that, one of the things I say to my clients a lot is, we don't make changes for the sake of making changes. We make changes when it's going to benefit the client. And as you say, the GFC was a perfect example of us sticking to our guns. I wasn't with you then, but, once again, whenever there's been some sort of upheaval that's caused the markets to be very volatile, we've maintained the attitude that we have to stick to our guns, stick to our philosophies. These things will pass, and the portfolios will come back to a good position again, even though temporarily they look a bit poor. So that consistency across the whole business has been something that's been comforting to me as well.
Yeah, yeah. And as I said, it's always tempting when there's a next new thing, whether it's, the GFCs or COVID or some of the really interesting times. Certainly, I know you've been in the industry a long time, and having, been through, the tech wreck and those periods as well, and seeing that, the things that were true before are also true after, and that experience, I think, really does position you very well to make sure that, that the decisions that we make on behalf of, substantial amounts of money that isn't ours, to make sure that they're done with the best possible kind of risk management in mind. So yeah, it's been a good experience from our perspective as well. Certainly haven't agreed on everything along the way, that's for sure, and that's been part of what's helped, I think, our business and yours to be better, is that we can challenge each other ideas. All right. Well, look, you're
Yeah,
certainly getting out at a good time because it's the time that suits you, right? That's the,
100%. Yeah.
retiring on your own terms is always the best time to get out, sort of thing. So, it's certainly been an interesting, decade or so. We obviously knew each other a little bit before we join forces in a more sort of formal sense. But it's, you've, as much as you've been, using the systems and processes of Complete Wealth, you know, clearly, obviously, you've been a contributor to those sort of over time, because they're, today they're very different to what they were when you first joined, and being able to use your experience and your, practical implication of those has certainly helped them to, develop and get better over time. So we certainly enjoyed working with you in that respect, and also, dealing with your clients and just seeing, we're in this because of the impact, right? And whether that's the impact that, we are individually having with our own clients, or, we're seeing that with the other advisors and sharing in the wins and the good fortune that the clients get to experience. Results been great. So we're certainly glad that you've given us the opportunity to sort of carry that on for you, because we've got to know those clients pretty well, and and we take the responsibility of making sure that your work continues, pretty seriously. So yeah, and you're moving on to Toowoomba. So
Yes, it's yeah, we'd never been to Toowoomba before until about May last year, and we liked the place, and it's a place we haven't lived before. We've lived in lots of places, but not Toowoomba. And yeah, it's every time we talk to somebody about it and mention it, everyone says, "Oh, it's a great place. It's a nice place. You'll like it there. It's not too hot, not too cold, kind of thing." So yeah, so it's we're looking forward to the move. Yes, we're moving into a an over 55s establishment, having a brand new place built. Looking forward to that, and yeah, it's a brand new chapter of our lives, and we're looking forward to it incredibly. But
well,
I'll miss everybody. I'll miss you guys in Complete Wealth. I'll certainly miss the clients, but there comes a time when you just have to draw a line in the sand and leave, and that's what I'm doing. So.
yeah, we do. Well, if anyone's earned a retirement, I think you'd probably be at least in the final, if not on the podium. So
Yeah, thanks, mate.
yeah, well and truly, and I know Sharon's definitely earned it. So
100%.
there's no question of that. All right, well, yeah, appreciate sitting down with us and
Yeah.
give us an opportunity to strike those last couple of pearls. And I can't imagine you make too many trips back to Bowral or Canberra, but if you do, well, you certainly know where we are.
Yeah,
So
well,
look
actually
forward
going
to.
back to Canberra in September, my nephew's getting married, so we'll be down there then. So
Right, right, maybe a glass of red or two.
maybe so.
Anyway,
Yeah, that'd be
so
good. I look forward to that.
all right, thanks, Garry.
No worries. Thanks, Matt.
Talk
Thanks for the team.